Hey everyone, my name's Jack. Welcome back to episode 20 of WAAC Weekly. It's a big one. So the show where we look at Team Red Path news as well as world eaters out in the world. This week was actually a quiet week. 161 games played, probably due to Easter and all of that good stuff. A very, very balanced 47% win rate. Still managed to get 3 RTT event wins. So, a decent number of games this week on Easter weekend. 161 games from 51 players. So, only 3 GTs this week. That's kind of unsurprising given Sunday was Easter Sunday. 48 RTTs, and 3 of the RTTs were event wins. In terms of rankings, Liam Worthit remains top of the leaderboard. No event for him this week, but he's managing to hold on to his spot. Still on 642, with Schuyler Quinn still in second on 618. Gone a bit quiet since the initial spurt. Both have filled out their 4 events. Some movement outside of the top 2, but still inside the top 5, with all new 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So Antonius Tolman had another decent 2-1 this week. That fills out his 4 events and puts him into 3rd place with 605 ITC points. In 4th is Diogo Pita, who, spoilers, got an event win this week. And fills out his 4 events, and this puts him at 592 ATC points. Ryan Totten, who has played bodies for a while, fills out his 4 events with 554 points. So to check in with TRP, Jamie is still in 20th with 3 and 350, so the same as last week because he was in an RTT this weekend, but hit GemHammer hasn't gone up yet. Dara is still in 25th, well, he's down to 25th with 3 and 332. And I am down to 44th with 2 and 252. So I've got 4 events in the next 4 weeks, though, so they should help bump me up. If nothing else by weight of numbers. That's what we like by default. Yeah. And then on to Team Red Path news. So, as I mentioned, our very own Jamie Miller was in action this week at the GemHammer April RTT. Jamie went turn 1. Decent performance with some very strong specific games. So he won 164 in game 1 against Guard, a Born Soldiers list, a veteran Guard player by the sounds of it, before losing to his local nemesis 1899 against Death Guard, the eventual event winner, so fair enough. And then in his game 3 he won against an Empress Trojan Custodes Dread Spam list with a couple of knights, baby knights. He won 76-45. So yeah, really strong 2-1. I know Jamie's been hungry for it since the new book. So still on the Invocatus bandwagon train with Mo, 20 Jackals, 10 Jackals, 10 Jackals, 4 squads of 5 Berserkers, 2 little squads of trading, 8 bound, 2 squads of exalted 8 bound, 3 spawn, quad heavy bolter rapier, 2 rhinos, and that 1 brigand with aura of corruption, which is the aura of -1 strength. And then when he gets favoured, it's also -1 toughness, which means that things like Marines go to toughness 3, and that's quite nice for our Berserkers at strength 6, and 8 bound at strength 7. Where the offerings just means that as Brigands, you just need to snipe out a vehicle. In some matchups, that'll be like piece of cake. So, like any kind of elf variant, sniping out a vehicle should be relatively easy for a Brigand, especially with the strength 6 chain cannons. Yeah, I mean, there's a bit more shooting. Dropped the Land Raider, got the Rapier in instead. A lot of trade units, and then the big Jackal Hammer units come in from Strat Reserve. Imagining of that. And then, yeah, 2 squads of 8 bound, or the Berserkers to chuck forwards. The squads of 3 keeps the cost down on the trade, so that's fair enough. Strong performance from Jamie. That will fill out as 4 events, and I'd expect to see him probably top 10, I'd say, in the rankings with that. If not, probably not top 5, but definitely top 10, I would say. Jamie was not the only one in action, though. Up next, we have Luke Dickin, who is graduate in the Discord. He was at the Team Stonehammer presents Bring the Ruckus, which is up north in the UK somewhere. I think it's Element Games is their tournament that they run, which would mean Stockport, I think. Maybe you're wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Luke unfortunately went 0-3. It's 3 very tough games by the sounds of it. 3 close games. These were his first games with the Codex, so understandable. There's a bit of a learning curve. It is quite an adjustment to go from old book to new. So first game, a loss 67-98 against Ymir Leagues of Otan. Second game was a 66-98 loss against Death Guard, and third game was a 71-80 defeat against Black Templars. All very strong scores from him, even in defeat and while still learning book. The thing I struggled with was budgeting blood type points properly. So, yeah, good to see 3 decent scores though. So in terms of the list, Demon Prince with the -1 to wounds relic, 20 Berserkers, 4 squads of 5, 2 Rhinos, 2 squads of 3, 8 bound for trades, 2 squads of Spawn, a quad heavy water rapier, Angron with his warlord trait, a Bloodthirster with Argath and so phase capped, and then the mandatory squad of 10 Bloodletters. Yeah, that's a pretty nice list. It's very close to what I'm running next weekend actually. Except I've got a Glaive Lord instead of Demon Prince, and no 8 bound. I'm running. Oh, I will leave that for later. Spoil anything. Yeah, like quad rapier, quad heavy bolter rapier carries are pretty nice. 75 points for potentially 2 blood type points, and also quite a lot of heavy bolter shots that are suddenly not bad. Like AP1 actually means something again into most things. Damage 2, it's not bad at killing Marines, of which there are many in the meta nowadays. But yeah, the phase cap Bloodthirster is love it. As you can see behind me now, he's been joined by his friend because I finished painting him. So Angron and his Bloodthirster pal are going to be aboard me London area. Anyway, yeah. So unfortunately, 0-3 for Luke. But some lessons learned by the sounds of it. Some list tweaks coming in. Be interesting to hear what those list tweaks are. Please drop me a message. Please don't say the Bloodthirster because I've just submitted my list for next week. So, and then on to World Eaters out in the world. So as I said, it was a bit of a quiet. By the sounds of the new book, it was a bit of a quiet week this week. Only 161 games played, compared to like 300 to 400 for the 2 weeks before. So it and it feels like people might be sort of solving World Eaters or getting to the point of solving World Eaters. There were 3 really strong performances. We're going to take a look at all 3 of the lists this week, just because content. So we are going to look at all the event winning lists, the RTT lists. So up first we have Daniel Guarnaccia, who went 3-0 at the KGS monthly tournament. It was a 7-player RTT, a little bit on the smaller side. But Invocatus with his Warlord trait, Glaive Lord, 5 squads of 5 Berserkers, 3 squads of 4 8 bound, 3 squads of 3 Exalted 8 bound, 3 Spawn 2 Riders. The vanilla list. It's that. We looked at these a lot. So, yes, it is that list again. Lots of 8 bound, lots of Berserkers, lots of Exalted 8 bound, all moving very fast. It's just a pressure list. Not much more to say about it, to be honest. We've talked about it quite a lot. Up next is Ken Purvis, who is in the Discord as Wabba Jockey or something like that. Something like that. Don't know. At the Moxies April RTT, went 3-0 and won the 22-player RTT. So congrats to Ken. Double Demon Prince, one with the -1 to wound relic, 10 Jackals, 3 squads of 5 Berserkers, 3 squads of 4 8 bound, 2 squads of Exalted 8 bound, 3 and 2 Spawn and Angron. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is a lot of pressure as well. So the Demon, it's just in a different package, I guess. The Demon Princes are still hitty, damage 3, strength a lot, AP a lot. They fly, they're fast. Yeah, like they're decent as like escorts for Angron, I guess. And then you have the 8 bound moving up as well. It's a heavy pressure list again. It just swaps out some of the Berserkers and the Rhinos for double Demon Prince. Well, and Invocatus as well, yes, for double Demon Prince. Which, yeah, fair enough. Clearly it's some work. So, congrats to Ken for that. And then, as mentioned, newly fourth place in the OTC rankings. Diogo Pita went 3-0 at the X Planet Games tournament. Won the 26 player RTT there. So this was Invocatus, 2 squads of 10 Jackals, 4 squads of 5 Berserkers, 3 squads of 3 8 bound, 3 squads of 3 Exalted 8 bound, 3 individual spawn, 2 Executioners, and a Rhino. So that is 10 of the Berserkers walking. They're coming on from Strat Reserve. That's a really nice list. I really like it. It's got worthy offerings. I really like that list. That's kind of, I think, where I might be heading for my iteration of Invocatus. I may not take all the Exalted. I might not take all the Exalted. Can't be asked painting at the moment. So I think my latest iteration of the Invocatus list is a Glaive Lord in as well, and then bump those up to 4 and drop 2 of those squads of Exalted. But that's literally because, and then put worthy Fear of Fates on that. But that's literally because I can't be asked to paint 6 more Exalted Powder, and they're sold out everywhere. So I couldn't get my hands on them unless I want to pay silly money on. So probably not going to do that. For the sake of a couple of months of gameplay, like I think I have plenty of World Eaters to mess around with. My latest thing is that list, which I'm going to be taking to at least the next event, and then I'll probably take what I've just said to. I've got an RTT 23rd of April now, which is going to be GW terrain, and I'll use that as practice for Fest, which is the week after, and I'll probably take whatever I settle on, but it'll probably be an Invocatus kind of list. For those two, for GW terrain, unless this does insanely well. But I think on GW terrain it will suffer because I think stuff will get shot really easily. Yeah. Yeah. So 3 really strong performances. Congrats to all 3 event winners. Especially Ken, who I know is in the Discord, and a fairly active member of particularly the competitive channels. Yeah. Strong performances. And next up is normally the unit matrix. We're going to do something slightly different this week, just because there's only 3 lists that made the criteria, which are the 3 we've just looked at. So I've not really done that because it would skew other stuff quite a lot because there's only 3, so like the percentages would fuck around. So I have done something a little bit different this week. Find it. So I've done a quick look at the prevalence. I'm using it as a retrospective, looking at the weeks since the codex has come out, what's been popular, what's done well, that kind of thing. So what I've done is I've totaled up the 94 games that I've used for the Matrix since the codex came out, and then added up like how many of each unit has appeared. Basically the same sort of methodology, just using actual count rather than percentage. Percentage of total. Percentage of total just makes it easier to look at. But actual count is probably better for like a more aggregated view across the whole season. So I thought it'd just be a bit useful to look at. So I mean, 5 Berserkers. The 4 lists that there are 0 Berserkers in are the Disciples lists that have popped up every now and again. There's 4 lists that haven't used 8 bounds. Fair enough. Dora's isn't one of them. Dora's might be one of them. I can't remember if he used 8 bound in his stupid Leviathan list. 2 Spawn, 6 8 bounds, 10 Berserkers, 3 Exalted 8 bound, quite popular. 1 Invocatus. 84% of lists have used Invocatus. Even, I mean, so right, this is a good point to talk about this. So Invocatus makes an appearance even without his Warlord trait in the vast majority of lists. So 80% of lists, 84% of lists. Includes Invocatus at least, and that I think it proves that if you can find 35 points, you probably should just upgrade your Juggernaut Lord to an Invocatus, because why not? He flies, he's faster. My hand is on camera. He flies, he's faster, and you get Ignore Invons, which, although he's not that killy, is nice enough on top, unless you're going to spend the CP for the Berserker Glaive, which also makes them killy, but you still run into the Invon problem. he's a lot more versatile, I think, than a Juggernaut Lord, a base Juggernaut Lord. I think it goes without saying that the best buffing aura it might be a hot take. The best buffing aura we get, I think, from our HQs is the plus twitch move. So you want a Juggernaut Lord, although people have been doing well without, but I think you want a Juggernaut Lord or Invocarts or both, or two Juggernaut Lords. You want plus twitch move because it just helps us get to combat, right? And as a purely melee army, unless you take knights or rapier batteries, or God forbid predators, you want to be getting there as fast as possible. Plus twitch move, nice, sure. So the other thing, and you probably can see it on the screen, is Invocatus Warlord trait is in 61% of lists, and Angron is only in 36% of lists. So, I mean, first of all, that means there's some lists where there are neither. Second of all, Invocatus is clearly more popular. That's probably like part of that's probably like self perpetuating whatever circle jerk of the internet because people are saying, oh, Invocatus is the only way to play Worldies competitively, and more people reading that, and more people running out and playing Invocatus, and therefore more people doing well with Invocatus because just law of averages, right? That's not to say it probably is evidence also that Invocatus is better, because he's showing up more often in the top lists. That isn't like a hard and fast conclusion you can make though, because there's so many other variables like player skill, terrain, all of that shit, like opponent skill, that you could go on and on. So it doesn't necessarily mean that for sure, but a very superficial reading of it would be the Invocatus with his Warlord trait is better than Angron because he's showing up in more of the top list. Maybe that's copium for me because I'm about to run Angron next. But someone won with Angron. 2 people won with Angron this week, I think. The other thing that I wanted to just touch on was the fact that Knight allies are far more popular in top lists than Demon allies. So there are 30 lists with Knight allies, so 32%, and only you have to go down to 13 lists with Demon allies, so 14%. Probably. There you go. So, and then of those, about half have included executioners, so the Knights list. Half have included executioners, so 15. And then their second favourite Knight variant is Brigands, so 12 of them. The others are like, there's a couple of lists with Stalkers a while back, and there was one with Huntsman, I think, last week. So, again, similar thing to the Invocatus Angron thing, like, the top level like conclusion, I guess, is that Knights are better than demons if you're looking to run allies, and I'm not necessarily sure I disagree with that, just because I think Knights fill a hole that we have a lot more than demons do. Like demons have some shooting, skull cannons are pretty efficient for 90 points, but trying to like squeeze them in is a bit rough. You have to take like Guarnaccia or like another so executioners or brigands, Knights fill a shooting gap, which is relevant in all games, I would argue, whereas demons much more fill a anti-psychic or a psychic gap, which is not as relevant in all games. It's very relevant in some games, and it's sort of relevant in other games, but it's not like 100% relevant all the time. Whereas Knight's shooting is good against everything, or like decent against everything, whereas anti-psychic is only good against psychic. So that's an interesting thing to note. Also, Executioner's Brigands still up in the air. Take whatever you prefer. You'll see people advocating for one or the other. Especially in the Discord, you'll see people advocating for one or the other. It will depend on terrain. It will depend on local meta. It will depend on how you use them as well. I have used Brigands in one game. It was against Jamie. They did fucking nothing because I don't think I did any damage with it. I might have done some damage. I think I did like 3 damage with the thermal spear across two brigands all game, and neither of them died. Whereas executioners I use as a range board threat that I just sit at the back in a site with a decent sight line, and then say if you go into that channel, you're gonna probably not die because they're not great, but like take some damage, and like it's the fear. As soon as I say flat damage 3 autocannons, people are scared. In terms of demons, though, obviously I'm about to try the Bloodthirster Bloodletters. You can't really fit much more else in unless you do like 4-man 8-bound units to get to pump up the power level. Because yeah, the demon thing is based on power level and not points. Ron. Sorry, that was power level. For anyone who hasn't watched that video, it's power level, not points. So you can fit extra stuff on top of a Face Cap, Bloodthirster, and Bloodletters, but not much, and you have to jank the rest of your list. So it's not the worst looking list, to be honest. The most popular demons are obviously the I mean, I think I can show you this. So the most popular demons are obviously the 10-man Bloodletter squad, which are compulsory in a patrol, and then Fleshhounds and Guarnaccia are the next most popular, although they haven't appeared in that many. And then there's been a good mix of like Scarbrand, Skulltaker, Uraka, Guarnaccia, and then yeah, the Face Cap Bloodthirster is also relatively popular. But Fleshhounds, Guarnaccia, Face Cap Bloodthirster, more Fleshhounds are the popular units, I would say, among demons. That is good to know for anyone who is keen to run demons, maybe for Warband fluff, or because your local beta is Psycho Heavy, that kind of thing. Those are the demon units that are doing well. I can see why. Fleshhounds are 75 points for 10 wounds on demon saves, and they're really fast and beasts, so they can breach, and they have damage 2 on the charge, and decent AP, so they're like pretty good into Marines, as well as access to the like pumped up Contempt for Sorcery, which is like the 3+ within 12 inches, I think, of a Fleshhound unit, and because they're fast, they might be within 12 inches. Yeah. So I thought that'd be quite interesting to look at. Obviously, this sort of top stuff should come as no surprise to anyone. I don't think. I was also hoping that there would be some stuff that people have like moved on to a bit more. As time has gone on, I think that's probably not the case. Maybe we're starting to see slightly more jackals, but I'm not sure there's any real correlation in that. More list showing up with Juggernaut Lords, either bare bones or with Glaive, which is kind of fair enough because it's hilarious. Why would you not run that? And finally, the great game. Just taking a look at it. So the number of Godline Legion players for each god. World Eaters still riding high. Emperor's Children gone up to 102, so continuing to grow but slowly. Thousand Suns on 198, continuing to grow but very slowly. Death Guard on 313, growing, decent rate. World Eaters at 330. We are pulling away because we are growing real fast. Yeah, so that's cool. I think we're closing on double the number of players we had for the whole of last season, and we are 3 months in because Balance Day Slate is week. Yeah, so that's good to know. If you want to discuss any of this stuff with me or anyone in the Discord, join our Discord. There is a link down below. Great community. It is what got me into World Eaters and onto this channel. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube goodness. If you agree with my thoughts on Knights and Demons or Invocatus and Angron, tell me. If you don't, tell me that too. Shout at me. All of that stuff. Then join the Discord and shout at Dara because he told me to do this. Probably. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe. We have Twitch Mondays and Thursdays. We have videos Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. We have the occasional weekend stream for our people on different time zones because we have quite a few. But most importantly, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill me burn.